Hi everyone, welcome to release day of Safe House Exposed. I'm going to read to you a portion of the first chapter, but stay tuned to the end for a special surprise. Here we go. Fork lightning flashed from one dark haunting cloud to another, sending a shiver bolting throughout Police Constable Mason James's body. He shrugged off the aura of dread and pulled onto the Peace Bridge connecting Buffalo, New York and Fort Erie, Ontario. The weather matched his foul mood after hitting another dead end in his investigation of a leak within the Canadian Witness Protection Program. Someone had sold witness locations, and Chief Superintendent Seth James had tasked Mason to go undercover to find the mole. The sound of thunder booming as the rain pelted across his windshield almost drowned out the call coming through his Bluetooth. He glanced at the screen and grimaced. His father looking for answers. Mason punched the button. Hey, what's up, Dad? Did you get any leads? Right to business. No hello, nothing. Just like you, Dad. Mason imagined the day he'd live up to his father's expectations like Brady, his cop brother who could do no wrong. The thought of disappointing his father again stabbed at his tightened chest muscles. Dead end. We need a break in this case, son. No mistakes on this one. Lives close to us are depending on you. He didn't miss the forced tone in Chief Superintendent Seth James's voice. Mason needed to curb what he wanted to say, so he counted to 5 in his head before responding. I know, Dad. My informant wasn't where he said he'd be. Not my fault. Listen, I was just notified of another witness in the program who's been targeted. It's... His voice paused. His voice quivering. Mason straightened in his driver's seat. Who is it, Dad? I'm just... Crunch. The rear end collision sent his pickup lurching toward oncoming bridge traffic. The black SUV shot around him, wove in and out of the lanes, and sped toward Canada's border. Mason tightened his grip and swerved right, but not in time to avoid the car in the opposite lane clipping his front end. They both careened toward the edge as another vehicle rammed him from behind. Multiple cars smashed into each other. Mason's truck finally came to a stop next to the bridge's edge. Son, what's going on? His father shouted. Mason had forgotten the chief's call in the seconds of the crash. Multiple car pile up on the Peace Bridge. Dad, call an emergency response. I gotta go. He punched off the call and jumped out of his truck. Another driver exited his car. Are you okay? What happened? Good question. The SUV had purposely rammed Mason, and a thought dashed into his mind. Someone had blown his cover. It was the only way they would have known he traveled to Buffalo to meet with an informant. Mason shrugged. Not exactly sure. Let's check the occupants of the other cars. The man nodded. After inspecting all of the vehicles and passengers, he breathed a sigh of relief. No injuries. Mason walked to the railing and peeked over the edge at the deadly Niagara River. This crash could have been much worse. A flash of lightning filled the sky, followed seconds later by a crash of thunder as rain hammered the area. Being in the open in a thunderstorm on the bridge was not a good combination and could prove fatal. He gazed at the darkened clouds, willing them to dissipate. 45 minutes later, after helping emergency response tend to the accident, Mason remembered his father's call. He turned to an officer. I need to leave to assist in another situation. Stay safe. He jumped back into his dented truck. Thankfully, the damage didn't affect his vehicle's drivability. He punched in his dad's number and wove around the scene. Mason hated to leave, but he had no choice. Everyone okay at the accident? His father asked, his voice filled with concern. Dad, this was not an accident. A black SUV intentionally rammed me from behind and sped off before I could get his license plate. I'm concerned my cover has been blown. How? Very few know of your involvement. Good question. Mason approached the Easy Pass border lane, which would allow him to enter back into Canada without difficulty. What were you telling me earlier? What witness is compromised? A heavy exhale swept through the Bluetooth. Emma. Sierra is with her. What? How? Mason's grip on the wheel tightened. His sister-in-law was a Canada Border Service Agency officer, and her 4-year-old daughter was the apple of his father's eye. No wonder the rough and tough veteran officer's guard had weakened after receiving the news. He doted on the little girl. Guilt prickled Mason's conscience. He couldn't remember the last time he'd visited Emma and Sierra. His father had requested he stay away. The man's agenda had been clear. They didn't need a reminder of Brady. Mason fought his father, stating he wanted to help the girls, but ultimately he lost the battle. Mason, don't you listen to the news? He suppressed the groan he wanted to expel. Once again, Chief Superintendent James expected his son to be the police force's best officer, a pressure Mason would prefer to do without. Dad, I've been a tad busy in my deep cover assignment with not much contact with the outside world. What is it? Her joint task force uncovered a smuggling ring and tied it back to Lincoln Luther with solid evidence. What? The Buffalo Luther family was notorious, and anyone who got in their way, well, Mason refused to speculate what the son and daughter of this family would do to those who messed with the Luthers, especially their father. Why wasn't I told she was in the program? Silence. You didn't want me in her life just like before, did you? Mason took the next turn sharply. Never mind. What did you need me to do? Head to the safe house. Protect her. A pause. At all costs. His father rattled off the address. Mason didn't miss his emphasis on the word all. The question was, would Emma accept his help after the way he'd treated her since the accident that took his brother Brady's life 3 years ago? He brushed off his guilt and stepped onto the accelerator. On it! Be careful, son. His dad ended the call. Mason pulled into the undisclosed home's driveway off the beaten path near Fort Erie 10 minutes later. His father had not placed her far enough away. Why? He banged the steering wheel before putting the truck into park. The thought of facing Emma James caused his shoulder muscles to bunch up. He rubbed them and inhaled, remembering the promise he'd made to Brady at his gravesite. I will always look after your family. Mason's failure to help his sister-in-law and niece gnawed at him like a beaver chewing on a tree trunk. He had broken his oath to his brother. He rolled his shoulders back and forth, turned off the machine. The engine. Time to work on fulfilling his promise. He jumped from the truck, hurried up the front steps, and knocked. Constable Darlene Seymour opened the door a crack, eyes widening. Mason, I thought you were out of the country. A cover his father fabricated. Not even Mason's partner Darlene knew the truth. They had to plug the leak, and his dad had warned him to trust no one. Darlene allowed him to enter. I'm back. He wouldn't blow the mission, even though it had been compromised. I need to see the witness. A gasp sounded behind the constable. Emma James stepped into the open. Mason? Her eyes narrowed. Guilt once again prickled the back of his neck, the urge to flee increasing. But his promise to Brady held Mason in his tracks. He would not disappoint his brother again. And that is the end of Scene 1 of Chapter 1. Now I'm going to give you a chance to win a copy of Safe House Exposed to 2 commenters. Just put a comment at the end of this video and you will be put in the draw to win. Have a good day.